Okay, so it seems that there's been a pretty huge situation going on right now with Emiru and Mizkif. Now, this has been a pretty interesting one. I just got done watching the stream that Emiru put out, and yeah, this is pretty insane. Now, usually on this channel, I cover a lot of VTuber news and stuff, I know, but we've been covering a lot of the Emiru situation in, kind of conjunction with VTubers, and also I've been a long-time watcher of both of them, Emiru and Mizkif, so I think I could provide a bit of a better kind of rundown of exactly what went on stream. So essentially, Emiru went live and covered up a few things. Now, these are all the clips. Thanks to Yeet, by the way. He's been absolutely killing it. Or she. I don't know who's behind the account. They've been killing it with all the clips, right? But essentially, she started off the stream talking about a lot of the Twitch issues and things like that. Apparently, they didn't hand over the name of the person who harassed her at TwitchCon. If you guys didn't see that, we covered that in one of my previous videos. But then she moves on to Mizkif, which she kind of teased at for a little bit. And, well, it's pretty terrible. Now, she accuses him of a lot of things. She accuses him of sexual assault, domestic abuse, stalking, and also threats of blackmail, which obviously is pretty insane. And it's pretty crazy the amount that she goes through, and horrible to see, because if all of this is true, Mizkif is cooked. Like, I'm going to be honest, he's gone away with a lot of things over the past couple of years and stuff, and kind of controversies that he's been in, but this one I think might actually end his career, because yeah, a lot of what she talks about is pretty insane. Now, we keep on going. She talks about many different things, including saying stuff like that he'd been indirectly threatening her for a while, saying, through my friends and people I work with, informed me that he would try to create a smear campaign at TwitchCon. He approached one of my employees and told them that he would destroy me, which obviously, yeah, it's pretty insane. She mentions it near the end as well. Apparently, yeah, they found one of, like, her employees or something and said that she was going to destroy them, which, what does that even mean? Like, what does destroy them mean? In what kind of way? Like, analytically, online, or literally physically? Because again, that is also a worry for Emiru, right? We can go on to some other kind of clips as well, saying, she talked about some of the abuse that she experienced, and it was, yeah, like really, really horrible stuff. For example, like destroying walls and banging on doors and screaming. She talks about, like, a lot of it was mainly based off of stuff to do with, like, streaming content, right? So if she had more views than him, he would be upset. If he didn't get invited to an event, for example, like with Mr. Beast, he would get upset. And a lot of it was very content based and very, very, I guess, kind of ego based, right? He didn't want to have people outdo him, including obviously Emiru. And she felt like she was kind of in this little, like, kind of time zone of, like, hey, I've got to perform good to, stick around and, be around these people. But at the same time, I can't do too good, else he'll get annoyed and potentially, do some pretty horrible stuff. Also, she was saying stuff like, if they were driving, he would go like 150 miles per hour, threatening to end us. One of the times it happened is because he saw Mr. Beast had invited another streamer, which is insane. These are the most childish things that he is getting upset over and taking it out on Emiru, who obviously, if you haven't gauged at this point, she reveals that they were, dating and stuff at the time. And yeah, she managed to get out of it, luckily, but it's still going on to this day. A lot of the harassment, including, as we said, him going up to the employees at TwitchCon. And she goes on to, talk about a lot of stuff here, including, obviously, she says that, she accuses him of SA, which is pretty terrible. Apparently, they, went through this whole period where they were, like, breaking up. She went to go move house, and then he wanted to talk at her new house. And whenever this happened, they hadn't talked in a while, and they started kissing or whatever, or he started kissing her. I let him, and then suddenly he tried to climb on top. I screamed, he jumped off, and then I feel weird now, but I feel like I did something wrong. Immediately left without checking if I was okay. That's kind of a paraphrase there. Essentially, they didn't really cover that well enough, but that's fine. Essentially, what he did was, yeah, climb on top of her, and then started to, move his hands down, her trousers, which obviously is sexual assault. And she screamed, and then he got off and said, I feel like I did something wrong, which, yeah, he didn't comfort her at all or be like, at least try to rectify the situation. He literally just said, I feel like I did something wrong, and then left her there crying. And yeah, I think that is obviously completely disgusting, and a lot of people were extremely shocked to hear this, alongside all of the other stuff. This is just one thing out of the many things that Emiru has accused Mizkif of doing, which I think is absolutely crazy. Emiru also alleges that, Mizkif gave her a black eye one time by throwing his phone. Apparently that was a common thing that he did. He would just chuck objects at her, like water bottles and things like that, and also obviously his phone, which gave her a black eye. I said, throw plastic bottles at me, despite saying I didn't like it and it scared me, and I bruise very easily. Throws his phone. One time it hit my eye. He always said, oh, it was an accident, which obviously we know it's not an accident. He's doing it on purpose. Now, there's been obviously many stuff as well, including like messages, which was a very common theme. Usually he would like message her, like they fell out over something like with WoW. I say they fell out. Mizkif fell out with her over WoW, over her putting a class, selecting a class in World of Warcraft, and he would obviously message her, like spam message her, and get very upset over that, which I thought was pretty insane. Again, these are the most childish kind of things to get upset over, especially to the point of abuse and all the stuff that he's been doing. I mean, I think anybody can agree that all of this stuff is absolutely terrible, and anybody kind of interacting with Mizkif at the moment maybe shouldn't. You got people like Mitch Jones as well saying stuff like damn, and there's been a lot of people that have known, for example, like Tectone, he was talking about it, saying that essentially there was some stuff that was going to happen, there was some stuff that needed to come out. Obviously it's not his place to put it out there, so he didn't say anything, but now it's out. He's like, see, I told you guys, like something big was going to happen, and we have had that information, right? It's just crazy, it's crazy to me that all of this has happened, and there's so much more. She also mentions the fact that, like, this isn't all of it. Everything that she mentions in the stream, you guys can go and watch the stream, definitely go and support her, by the way. But, she also mentions that all of the stuff that she mentions in the stream isn't, like, all of it. There is more, and there's also stuff from other people, too, which is pretty insane. She also goes on to talk about, this is still an issue now. It's not just, a kind of old thing that happened and it's being sorted. No, this is still happening. She goes to parties and things apparently, and she was stupid enough to make the mistake. She said she was stupid enough, not me, obviously, but she was saying she was stupid enough to make the mistake to kind of like still go to parties and events that he was involved with, and obviously he would like try to follow her around, try to find her. He mentions one time she was in a room with NMP, and he tried to find her, literally walked in, said who, and then walked out, which obviously is extremely weird. And there's been more cases of stuff like that, and as I said with the TwitchCon stuff too, was pretty interesting as well. She also goes on to say that other people as well also tried to help her out. Apparently there was a situation too where something had happened to her, obviously, and then Mizkif actually went on live and started talking about some of her other stalkers and situations that he's been in, also lying about his involvement with them, saying that he held someone at gunpoint, like a stalker or whatever, when in actual fact he was stood well far away, maybe with his gun out, but still wasn't really contributing to the overall effort, and it was someone else, Bonnie, her friend, who was the one doing the real kind of prevention. And obviously that also has come out too, which I think is pretty interesting. So again, there's been so much, and she said that apparently she contacted a lot of people, including obviously she was with Sinner and Valkyrie, and apparently they were trying to message people and trying to message him to stop talking about the stalkers and things, because obviously they were trying to message him and talk about the stalkers and stuff and trying to get him to stop, because obviously it's none of his business. He shouldn't be the one to talk about this kind of stuff. It's not his kind of job to do that, right? But again, they were trying to message him. Apparently Asmongold was trying to message him and even called him, and it had three rings, and then he hung up. So again, he saw that he was calling him and trying to tell him, hey, stop, you got to stop talking about this, but he actively ignored it and carried on talking about some of her previous stalker kind of situations, right? Because she has a big problem with that as well, which I think is absolutely insane and kind of exposes who Mizkif really is. We all know that Mizkif has moved off to LA now. He's, with some other people, and I think this is one of the big reasons why, because nobody likes him back in Austin anymore, and I think that is obviously, pretty insane, and as well, I don't know if all of the people he's been interacting with a lot of people in LA right now. I don't know how that's going to affect his relationship with them. Honestly, if they do interact with him right now, it's going to be a very bad look. Like, I'm going to be honest, like, you're going to look terrible interacting with Mizkif after all of this stuff, if he even goes live, because I feel like there's going to be a big break. But essentially, to finish this all off, what happened essentially was terrible and all of that, right? But obviously Emiru then goes on to talk about legal stuff, because there's all this kind of stuff about making Google Docs and making videos, streams, calling people out on the internet, right? She does say that she's actually, putting a restraining order on him in Texas and California. So hopefully that should help in that kind of stuff. And apparently she also expects Mizkif to sue her for PR reasons as well, which also would be pretty interesting over this stream that she's doing. So she's taking a massive risk here. And it's going to be interesting to see how that turns out. But it seems like she is pretty ready to handle with that and is fully ready to kind of have that come through. So again, we'll have to wait and see what comes out, and also to see if anybody else kind of replies, because she does say there's more people that could be involved, and obviously it's not her story to tell. So she hopes that it can kind of get some more people talking about this now that she's come out with her side of the story with Mizkif. But yeah, it seems like Mizkif is pretty cooked, and I don't think he's going to be coming back for a very, very long time, if ever, which is a bit of a contrast considering that Rich Campbell has just come back as well, which I think is pretty insane. But anyways, if you guys did enjoy this video, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe. Also, go to GameSubs, use my code Kaza, get 10% off. Again, they got a ton of really cool stuff over there. Definitely recommend checking it out. And yeah, I'll see you guys in the next one. That's all. See ya.